Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing? I'm Dr. Gail, and we've got Demaris here today. Yay, Demaris. So, thanks, everybody, for joining me and Demaris. But we do have a big surprise today. We got a surprise guest, and I'm going to bring her on right now. There we go. Nancy Jean.
And
Hey.
you surprised guest she was playing with her cell phone.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah. This is what the best layout's going to be here. I think this might be the best. Let me try this one. No,
You're looking a little blue.
no, that one's better. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for showing up, Nancy Jean. I want to, oh, bless you, Damaris. All right. Hey, Sarah and Sight. Hey, Vivian. Hey, Emerald Buddha. Vivian, been thinking a lot about you. We all have. Hope you are doing okay. Hope you have electricity. I'm so glad to see you here. So we now know you are okay. Dream Journey 1,
Yeah.
Ethnicity.
No, you're Vivian. You've got the other Vivian. Our Vivian that's in Puerto Rico is Vivian C.
Oh, Vivian C. Okay. So,
okay.
Okay.
So Vivian's going, I'm where?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Susie, 007. Susie is in the background. She'll be monitoring the chat for us. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Starfish. Hey, Carrie. Hi, Carmela. Hey, Dina. Hey, Tara. Hey, Nancy. Seascape. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Marlene and Spirit Watcher Suzanne. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. And we're going to get to talking about Damaris. Let's get to know Damaris.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. Fine. Good to see y'all.
Yeah, Damaris has her own YouTube channel. Tell us the name of it and your YouTube channel.
More Than This with Demaris.
And your YouTube channel.
More Than This with Demaris.
You got a second thing going on there.
It went away. It was me.
She. Okay. She. Okay. All right. So again, say it one more time. What was the name of it again?
More Than This with Demaris.
With Damaris. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get to know Damaris a little bit, and y'all check out that channel. Be sure to check out her channel. So let's start with a little chit chat talk about while everybody comes in. I see you, Ingla. Hi. How are you doing? Where are you from, Damaris? Where'd you start off? Where were you born?
Born and raised South Texas, and raised in South Texas with started off working cattle at 5 years old with my grandparents, and lived in a small little town of about 3,000 down towards the border, and graduated from high school, moved to San Antonio, and hated living there. So now I live in a little town called Bandera, Texas, in the beautiful Texas Hill Country.
And Nancy Jean, you're close to her, not close to her, but in Texas.
I've been to Bandera. It is beautiful.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Don't come here without not telling me. You gotta let me know next time.
No, this was years ago. My husband and I used to do B&Bs, bed and breakfast, all in the Hill Country. Beautiful. If you want to come to Texas and see a beautiful part, that's lovely. And it's what amazes me is that whole ridge, that whole mountain, semi-hilly ridge. They said it happened in 23 seconds. The earth shifted for 23 seconds and built that.
Wow. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your town that you're in, Damaris. I know it's small. So.
Yes, ma'am. The city limits is about 987 or something. The city limits itself. It's a tourist town. It's they're trying to keep it real cowboy. We still have horseback riders up and down the street, or wagon, and go for wagon rides. They have a guy who puts his longhorn out in front of the courthouse where you can get pictures on it. It's a quaint little town. A lot of dude ranches all around. So yeah. If you want to be a pretend cowboy for a little bit, we have tons of dude ranches.
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, it's really neat. And there's, there's a lot of dinosaur artifacts around this area too. I used to drive trucks and have to ride on a riverbed and see those 3-toe prints in the riverbed.
Tell us about your background on work-wise.
Work-wise, oh lordy, I've done everything from dog grooming, hairdressing to to, I was the first female in the history of Bandera County to rank. So I became a sergeant at the jail. So I used to wrestle inmates.
Oh, oh.
Then I ended up I also had horses and was raising a longhorn. I was saddle breaking a longhorn. They didn't cause it, but I ended up breaking and fracturing my whole spine. I had to leave the job, thank God, because it was divine timing. My mom was diagnosed with dementia, so I took care of her for 7 years.
Yeah, that's the hardest job ever. It's taking care of.
You know,
Yes.
the love and the healing it did at the very end was worth every heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I took care of my dad for 8 years, and that is hard, but you wouldn't give any of that up. You know, you get to really know them that you never knew them before, or get to know them better. But anyway, let's talk about your gifts. When did they start happening?
It started happening when I was about 4 years old, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I had my first vision at 4, and it continued on up until I was 7, 8, 10, 12. And then it kind of waned a little bit. And then it came back like a powerhouse when I turned 35. And it came back so much. Everybody was yelling at me. I couldn't walk into a restaurant or a bar or somewhere. What did I drink? But couldn't go anywhere without all these voices. Tell them this, tell them that. Finally, I had to get them to settle down a little bit. And from there, things just kept developing.
So now what are your gifts now?
I do animal communication. I also am telepathic. I did a thing on all the clairs, and dang if I can't remember some of them, but
Yeah, that's fine.
all the clairs, but my big one is the pictures and visions and
Clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance. Thank you. I knew you'd know.
And you're also an empath and a psychic.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, are you doing readings now?
I do them for friends and stuff, but I have not professionally started doing them, and I would like to, and that's kind of what we're building up on.
Okay. So would you like for these people to contact you for a reading?
That would be fine with me if they want to email me.
So how would they get in touch with you?
You can email me at Demaris Wilson 444@gmail.com.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's good. All right. Well, let's go ahead into, while we're all here today, talking about, well, I'm going to start off a little bit. Well, we're going to start off talking about cat story, and then we'll get into the other. As y'all yesterday, Nancy Jean was doing her 9 candles. If y'all haven't been looking at it, you've got to go there and look at her 9 candles. It's a ritual that we need to start doing rituals. That we're being asked to go back to rituals. And my cat, as I lit the candles, Dirty Harriet, jumped up on the desk. Her tail went into the candles and she was on fire. So this was all going on while Nancy G was doing her live. And I'm freaking out, or a premiere. I'm freaking out. I'm patting. I don't even know how I got the flames off her tail and moved the candles away, got it all done. And then I was able to go into the chat and tell everybody what had happened. It was seconds. I mean, her tail just went, and then my whole house stunk all night long. It was terrible, but she's fine. She didn't even know anything happened. I mean, thank goodness she has a lot of hair, but she didn't even know anything happened to her. She's fine. Anyway, and Demaris has a cat now that she's nurturing. Tell them about your cat that you're nurturing. You just did a video on that this morning.
Yes, ma'am. I had this little black kitty, and he was going to go away and be a barn cat, but a friend of mine heard I was babysitting her dog and just turned my back for a little bit, and the little dog got the kitty. So now he's got a fractured spine and herniated diaphragm. So I brought him back here, and we're working with him. I'm working with him, and the guides are working with him, and the archangels, and got his front legs working. He's eating like a little pig, and I have a basset hound that's my service dog, and she does the potty business, so she keeps him cleaned and active.
Good.
And takes care of the rest of his body. She licks his legs and belly and face and keeps me from having to do it.
Yes. All right. Lucille, Prince Charming's mom, hi. And as we heal each other by Purette, hi. Oh, Purette White, hi, how are you doing? And the Chromosome, they're here. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. Butterfly Kisses, I see you there too. Thanks for joining us. Okay, well, next we're going to get into the elementals. And Nancy Jean's been working with the elementals. She's got her little dragon. She'll tell you that story, but I'm going to tell you how it's kind of started and while we're together. Last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was awakened by a loud voices that were saying, "We are the elementals." I have never had anything that loud, that strong. Even when my ETs come in, they're not that loud or strong. But so I'm popping up out of bed, turning my lamp on, getting my pen and paper that I always have beside my bed, and getting ready to write what they were going to say. Well, the only thing they said was, after that, was connect to Earth. Well, okay, I'm sitting there waiting. I'm waiting. Now, they showed me the scene of me walking down the trails, which I used to do all the time in South Carolina. I was always on the trails. And I haven't been since I've been to Mount Shasta. I've been up on the mountains, and at the top of the mountain, there's not a lot of trees. But they were wanting me to connect to the Earth through the trees, and specifically through the trees is what they're asking me. Because as soon as I was waiting for more information, I decided to pick up my phone and, of course, let's see what's on YouTube. And what came up on YouTube was a video on a guy that I have met here at Mount Shasta that works in a rock shop, and he's very connected to the trees. And he was demonstrating how you can find out if a tree is a portal or not, or if it's very spiritual. And the way you do it, he was explaining, is that you stand still in front of the tree, your hands by your side, you close your eyes, and you just let everything go. You just let your mind go, wipe it out. If you move forward to the tree, you start leaning into the tree. It's a very spiritual tree and a portal. If you don't move or you move backwards, then it's not. So anyway, the elementals are wanting me to connect to the trees, and I used to be extremely connected to them. So they're asking me, I guess, to get back to that. Now we can go into Nancy Jean, because I had to call her this morning. I said, this is what happened. This is what happened. And so Nancy Jean is the elemental. I consider more the elemental person, because I usually do with the ETs. And every morning I do connect with upper and lower. So I've got energy going through me, grounding and going up. I always do that every morning. So I am connected to Earth and the skies all the time. But I didn't expect the elementals to be so loud.
Yeah, they are.
Yes. So,
they're very direct. They're very, very direct, and they're going to make sure they get your attention. And they're really lovely. I mean, it's not like I feel like they think I ought to have a hearing aid on and they're yelling at me, but they're just very, very, very direct. And when I first met them, they showed me their rituals, they showed me their dancing, they showed me all the different forms that they were taking at this big party a couple weeks ago. And then I said, well, that's lovely. And they said, well, you work with the rocks, which is, I think, kind of why they came to find me, because I work with a lot of rocks and crystals. And I've made it pretty plain, I don't really want to leave the Earth. Over
and over and over again.
Over and over again. And so then I got back on my dragon and came home, and I thought, well, that was lovely. And I woke up the next day and I was like, well, that was an interesting vision. And when 2 days later, I woke up and there was my dragon in the bedroom again saying, "We got to go again." And I'm like, why? And he said, come on. So it doesn't do to argue with anything, whether it's a 3-year-old or a dragon at the middle of the night, just go where they tell you you're going. So I got on and went through and went back to the same place through this portal. And he set me off, and they came out. And this time they weren't dressed like in their party clothes, or we weren't going in the woods to look at them dancing rings and stuff. What they were doing was they're dressed in more of kind of their formal attire. And they wear very regal earth tones. And I've always wondered why I liked earth tones so much, but I think I know now. I really, when you see them all dressed in this stuff, and it's They're human forms. They're fairy tale forms like you see. They're little sprightly light little guys. There's also a unicorn and a couple of other sort of dragon looking things, but they're not. I think they're called griffins. Anyway, they were all there, and I said, "Why am I back?" And they said, "You didn't get the message." And I said, "What?" And they said, "Well, the equinox is coming, and you know what happens on the equinox." So I dig in my little brain, and I go, "Oh yeah, all the ley lines go straight, which are the earth energy lines that they're connected to." And they said, "Yes, and you have to explain to people this is a special time when they need to get their intentions straight, because your earth, the people in, well, I call it the world of woo, they don't, but the people in your world and what you do are focusing so much on the intergalactic, they're forgetting about the earth, and they need to understand that as they get to 4 and 5D, they'll be able to see us more plainly. And we want them to be able, would not be frightened by us, but to understand we're here too, and we're here. I mean, when we start emerging from the inner space of the earth and coming out and being around them. And so when I woke up the next morning, I wrote out my instructions, which was I was to create the ritual of 9 candles. They want me to explain rituals of all kinds, not just the 9 candles, but other things you can do to bring that earth energy into your life and to create things out of what's on this planet to improve your life and to get you ready for them. So, and since then, I've run into a whole bunch of interesting people who work with ley lines and earth energy and not necessarily with the elementals directly. And then I've been reading a lot more about them. One of the things I said to him when I was talking to him is I said, "Why'd you pick me?" And they said, "Well, you had the book all about us beside your bed your whole life." And that was my nighttime reading from like 5th grade on. I had that, there's a big thing, and it's the World Compendium of Mythology from all over the world. And one of the things I like about dragons, I think is particularly fascinating about them, is there is not a culture that doesn't have a dragon. They have never found a culture that doesn't have a dragon, and that they all start with the DRA sound, even if it's not terribly typical in their linguistics. So the dragons are the big universal guys, and they kind of drag you around through this. But Cecil is my dragon, so and he's a sweetie. And he, from being as big as he is, and I have such a small bedroom, we all managed to get in and out okay. Size, I mean, the dimensions, they do interdimensional things.
Right.
So that's why and so what we've done is I've been running the 9 candles, and I was going to, the original time way I had them set up, I was going to run the 9 candles so it ended on the 22nd, which would be tomorrow. But due to circumstances beyond my control, tech support got kidnapped away to Atlanta, and tech support puts all my shows up. So I had to wait till tech support could get back. And so then it ended up that we're ending the 9 candles on the 25th, which is even better because that's the new moon. And what you should be doing is understanding the shift of energy we're all feeling that we're in the middle of. And after the 22nd, start writing your intentions to plant for the new moon and think of them in terms of earth critters. So,
and actually, I'm on the 22nd.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm on tomorrow. Yeah. So right before we were coming on the show, and in fact, yesterday, I found out that I am living on a ley line. So because I feel like Demaris is so connected to Earth and always has been. I don't know why. I think I feel like she's more connected than she actually thinks herself. And so I said, why don't you check your pendulum and see if you're on a ley line? Well, she got this biggest yes that she's also living on a ley line. So are you also, Nancy Jean? Are you?
Yes.
So
I have an energy force that goes through my house, and when I did that. I was on the ley line. Then I walked around with my pendulum and said, "Is it here? Is it here?" So I got a defined space. Ley lines actually have this. They're the smaller of the earth energy lines, and they actually have dimensions and width. And when we talk about the ley lines go straight between the solstices and the equinoxes, the ley lines move back and forth. Now, the reason we know this is because geobiologists in England all got together and they all started tracking certain ley lines, and they figured out, they couldn't believe it at first. Why is it moving? Why isn't it just like a river flowing? But it's not. It moves a little bit. But what they found by tracking this, and I mean, got to give these guys props, because I'm not sure I'd get up every day and go look for that damn line, but they did, and they figured out where it was, and they figured out they were that they went straight on the solstices and the equinoxes, and they have since found out when they talk to the elders like the Maori or the Aborigines in Australia, or to the wise shamans in South Africa, they all talked about how these lines move. And what happens is the ley lines are kind of like the paths that go to, and then they get to bigger paths and bigger paths and bigger paths. And then you have what they call nodes, which are places where we recognize as high holy places, where a lot of that earth energy all comes together. And there's a place in Wisconsin called High Holy Hill. And before the Catholic Church built its church on this point, it was always a holy site to the Native Americans that were there. There's bigger lines on the earth called dragon lines, and I'm not going to get into all that. But if you just want to know if you live in a ley line, you need to get quiet, get with the pendulum, and hold it, and it'll say yes or no. And if it says no, don't freak. Ley lines are not everywhere. It's not like the earth is bubbling with them, although they're getting bigger and they're getting wider. And somebody just mentioned Rory Duff in the chat. Yes, he's the guy who started following ley lines in South Africa and brought the thing home to England, and then they started finding them all over. Although the original guy who defined ley lines was at the early 1900s, and he followed the ones across England, because all of England's cathedrals are built where there were old churches, Romanesque churches before, and then before that they were Celtic worship sites, and they were Druidic worship sites. And every cathedral you go to in England, there'll be a well by it. There will be a well there. And those wells have been there since time began. And they were always high holy places for the people who lived in Britain before. And there's ley lines that go across Europe. There's ley lines that go across South America. They run through some of the oldest Mayan capitals. It's a fascinating subject when you start looking at it. And we're going to be talking about it more. And this is kind of off the top of my head. So that's wandered all over the place. So
we have a big one over here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, Demaris, about you're real connected to the Native Americans. And so you are all into the earth things. What are your experiences? Have you had any that you have, but you just haven't really acknowledged it as much as we're now facing it?
Yeah, my big thing is I connect to a lot of outside spirits, whether they be animals or I've taken pictures and see Native American people, lots of orbs and stuff as far as that goes. Now, I was about to say we have Enchanted Rock not too far from where I live. That is a big ley line. Speaking with Nancy Jean on that one. So it's a pretty neat place to go. But water is a big attractor for me. So
I'm going to say the only big encounter I've had with the Native Americans, I had 3 show up one day, and they were going to teach me how to ground. And for 2 weeks, I had to follow their instructions. And because I was so up there in outer space. And so for 2 weeks, I had to follow their instructions. And it was a rigorous kind of grounding me. And thank goodness, I think I have stayed grounded because they haven't shown up again. They haven't given me that little So,
they're around babysitting me still. I've mentioned earlier that they would pass through me, and that was an awesome experience because it was.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
When they pass through you, it takes your breath away, but you can feel the chill from head to toe, and it just stops you in your path. I mean, it just stops you, and the air is fresh. It's emotional. It's so much love because they just give you everything they have in them, and they don't. I'm getting chills now. They don't stay, luckily, because you want your body back, and I don't think we could live on that vibrational level, that way, because I mean, it is such an experience. I can't even tell you.
Okay. All right. Well, I've seen some more people have come in. Teresa, Captain Morgan. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining us. Now we're going to take this to the chat. If y'all have some questions, Susie's in the background. She'll be pulling up the questions for us. And so, Susie, we got any questions out there? Comments? Questions? Okay. Butterfly Kisses Healing. Dr. Gail, I saw all the snow on the mountain you posted earlier. Wow. Yes, I know. I'm shocked too. We don't have snow where I'm living. It's up on the top of the mountain, and you drive up to the mountain, all of a sudden it's like raining and then it's snowing. It was pretty amazing going through that. Today was the first day I could take a good picture of it, and we're supposed to get some more rain and snow on the mountain tonight. But it is 10 degrees cooler when you go up to the mountain, so they are getting snow, but it is beautiful. I didn't feel like the pictures did it justice, but I went ahead and posted it anyway because it was the first snow on the mountain. Okay, next. Hey, White Dragon. Nancy, have you ever met any fiery salamanders?
I don't know them all personally. There may have been one in the crowd, but pretty much I don't even have names for the elementals that are the leaders that I was talking to. And I do know about fiery salamanders, and they're on the King of Wands. They're on the King of Wands, the wand suit. If you look in that in the tarot, and I know there's history to them, but it is so vague for me. I'm going to start doing a series of shows on the different symbols.
Yeah, I can't wait because I want to hear your shows on all those different things. But when they woke me up last night, because I'm very visual, I see all the ETs, I see all the people who passed, I see all that. The one thing they didn't reveal what they look like. And looking back at it, I'm going, well, that was really strange that I didn't get to see them. I just heard them, and they were loud. But but I haven't seen them. I mean, they are the loudest things. And I was expecting more information to write down, but I didn't get it. They just wanted me to get back out on the trails in the woods and connect with those trees again. So,
I've only experienced a reptilian, so I'm not into that elemental stage yet.
Yeah. Well, could that be the salamanders too?
Nancy Jean, what do you think?
I don't know. I think if they're the fiery salamanders and they want you to understand that significance, that's how they will appear to you.
It was tall, whatever it was, and it was not frightening at all. It kept me very calm.
Yeah. Well, the first reptilian I met was Carl, and he was big, sweet, and I didn't know what a reptilian was, and I went again running to Meg, who's one that walked me through all this, and going, well, I met this kind of dinosaur-y looking thing, and she was panicked, and I'm going, no, he was so sweet. He had the nicest eyes. I had trouble looking straight at him in the beginning because I was looking at the side eye because he was not very attractive. And then finally got used to it and saw his brown eyes, and they were so warm. And we've become good friends since then. But that was my first encounter, and I'm so glad I didn't know about them before I met one, because I would have been freaking out and probably had closed my mind on receiving, meeting him. So, all right, next question. The chromosome. Hey, is this? Which one is this?
Chromosome.
Yeah, there's two of them though. All right, my dragon. Oh, my dragon is Matilda. Oh,
cool.
Is this Priscilla or Heather?
Hi, chromosome. Love you, ladies.
Hey, yes, that's another one to show y'all need to watch is the chromosome. Y'all had Bob on there recently, Robert, and that was really good. That was interesting. He always is. All right, so next question or next statement, whatever. Captain Morgan, Nancy Jean, thank you. I never knew that the ley lines changed at equinox.
Not
there
just
you go.
the equinox, they also go straight at the solstice. So one of the statements they made to me is 4 times a year, the earth can stop and look at itself and arrange its lines. And that we should at least do that for ourselves as beings on the earth. So.
Well, I see it's Priscilla that has the dragon. That's Matilda of the chromosome.
Okay.
Good, Priscilla. Okay, next question. Okay. Oh, okay. As we heal each other by Period White, PW. So, according to the world ley line, I think you're
on one, I think.
I'm in New Brunswick, Canada. I'm at Edward Island to New Brunswick to Nova Scotia. I am connected to 3 being in the middle. Well, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, there's a huge line that runs straight through them, and it also extends down into New England. And I was talking with Dorothy Morgan, the astrologer, and she said, well, I never knew anything about ley lines because she was my first candle on the 9 candles. And she said, I wonder if there's this is pre-show. She wondered if there's one near her. And when she looked at where they were in New Hampshire, the biggest node and the place that's known for ley lines in New Hampshire is a woods she used to walk in 20 years ago. And she said it was the most peaceful place, but she always took her partner's dog into the woods with her because she always felt like she was being watched, not maliciously, but just enough to know something else is here. She said, I wish I would have known about ley lines because I would have tried to connect to the energy that's there.
Well, Nova Scotia, I have been up there many times with the ETs because there's a big portal there and a big facility that's in Nova Scotia. And I also work with a guy that's up there that's a shaman. I work a lot with him that lives up in that area, and he always talking about the activity that's in that area.
Bigfoot.
So, what was that?
Bigfoot. That's one of them.
Oh, yeah. Yes. But this is more of an ET station where they were coming and going. This is a big portal for all of the ETs. So anyway, all right, next question. Hey, Carrie, is there a good online resource for locating ley lines here in North America? I've tried looking, but haven't found anything I can understand.
You can Google Rory Duff, and he has a whole bunch of resources that you can find about ley lines. And actually, there's a book, I downloaded it years ago. I didn't even know why I downloaded it. I must have been sitting at my reading table bored one Saturday. And when I opened it up, it was something about dragons. And I thought, oh, I'll go look at it. And it's a whole thing about ley lines. But none of them are mapped very well. Especially now, there are people in the U.S. that are trying to do that and trying to figure out where they are, because there is some theory that they're actually growing and getting wider. But how would you know that unless you're measuring? So if you can go to Rory Duff's site, he also has a free newsletter you can get every month. And Rory is an academic, so, take your notos before you start reading it. But it's full of good information.
Well, that's funny that you say that, Nancy Jean, because in my place where I live, they show me that there's a fine line that goes through it, but the area is widening that's going through my place where I'm living. And that's exactly how they showed it, almost like a zipper.
Yep.
That's how they were showing it to me. And I'm going,
yep,
it's getting wider? Okay, all right. So I don't know much about the ley lines, but Rory Duff puts me to sleep.
Oh, yeah, poor Danny. When I was trying to get Danny interested in this, Danny Shay said, if you send me another video of that guy sitting on a couch.
He has so much information, but he's so boring.
Well, he's English, and he's actually kind of reminds me of my second husband. And when you get into that mode, he's not that boring.
So if you can't sleep at night, put Rory
Duff. Put Rory on. There's a couple of astrologers I can suggest to you too. They'll go on 3 hours on one angle.
My ADD kicks in. I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, if you can't sleep one night, go ahead and put them on. So, all right, next question. Hey, Sonny. Oh, Susie, look at me, Sonny. Hey, Susie, can you tell us about energies attachments to antique? Oh, Nancy Jean, this is all up your alley.
I used to read cards in a vintage store, and when I started to work there, it was kind of the Wild West as far as energetics. And so they put me off in a corner, and there's a black screen that covered some windows to kind of block out the light because we are in Texas. And it was in January. And I was sitting next to this window and I heard a car roar by. And I don't know if you ever heard cars with snow tires that haven't taken them off and they're going down asphalt city streets. It makes this roar noise. And I thought, that's kind of weird. We haven't had a snow. Somebody must have come in from a state where there was snow. So I'm sitting there, and about 10 minutes later, I hear it again. And I'm like, that's weird, because it's such a weird noise. You learn what it is because it doesn't happen often. So the third time it happened, I went running out, and there was no cars with big snow tires anywhere to be found. So I put a bunch of crystals up against that wall, and I talked to the owner of the store, and I said, I think that this screen is growling. And so she and a guy named Buck, who ran the used record part, they came running back. And he goes, I told you shouldn't keep that in the shop. And they were having a big fight about it. Anyway, finally they pulled it up and took it away, and the roaring stopped. And then I said, why? I mean, I could see why it was a good black screen to keep the light out. And they go, Nancy, that screen wasn't black. Everyone else saw Victoriana prints that had been stuck all over this screen. And what it looked like to me was a big black space. So I'm really glad they got it out of there. Anyway, when I told Buck I didn't see any Victoriana on it, he said, I'm getting one of the axe. So he got an axe out of one of the showroom places and took it out and chopped the screen up so that no one would take it home. And later I found out from the vendor who brought the screen in that this screen had been in a room where there'd been a murder.
Ooh. Ooh.
So, yeah. And really, when you get antiques, do clean them. One of my jobs at the store was for the first, I actually went down one day this year. They got something in that had bad juju on it, and it was sort of spreading around the store. So I just go and burn some sage and do some salt. And I also have, you can go to my website, and under resources, you can find a prayer called the Violet Flame, which is a really good prayer to ask the energies from the universe to come in, sweep through your house, get rid of all low, negative, and discordant energy. And what it does is you ask the beings to take that back to the center of the universe to clean it up, sort of like a laundromat for bad stuff. And then you ask them to bring the energy back so you don't lose any energy. And the girls at the store for a couple of years had to say that every day. So, yeah. We had phones that weren't attached to things that rang, and we had radios that played that weren't plugged in.
I did a reading for a lady who she had a son that is disabled, and he kept seeing a dark spirit, and it was frightening him. And so she says, can you tell me what the spirit is, what it wants? And so immediately I got pictures of a coin. And I said, do you have some old money in your house? And she said, yeah. She says, it's my ex-husband. I kept it. And I said, this is attached to his father. And so the guides are giving me all this information. And she said, yeah. And I said, that's not your coin, and he don't want you to have it. He's attached to that coin. Give it back to your ex-husband as much as you don't like him. So she did. And right after that, the shadows went away. And so sometimes you have things that maybe you kept in a divorce that you're not supposed to have, might cause these things too. So they can attach to anything.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next question. Thanks, Susie. All right, White Dragon. Y'all, basic rule of Drake's and Lizzie's run. Well, yeah, I'm so glad I didn't have that fear in me when I met my first reptilian. I'm glad I just didn't know what it was. But in general, well, and I've also been recently, well, not recently, probably for the last month, I've been told to continually work on this exercise, not see the person or the thing, to look at the heart. So I'm supposed to see, feel, connect to the heart before I see the person. So that's a hard exercise because we always tend to make some kind of judgment when we see somebody.
Yeah.
And they're asking me to work through that. And I'm so glad I didn't have that judgment when I met my first reptilian.
Yeah.
Drake's and Lizzie's, I would be, now that I know about them, I would be afraid of them. Yes.
Well, and be very careful right now because there's a whole bunch of shows that used to be sort of fun and let's talk about aliens and look at them. And there's a guy who always had a kind of open attitude. And in the last 2 seasons, I was in Colorado watching with my friend who's really into the ETs up there. I mean, not that Dr. Gail isn't, but she's in it as like just a hobby. And we started watching it. She goes, "What the hell's wrong with this guy? He's never been this negative." And they were taking people around. They were telling them every horror story of them stealing fetal tissue and all this other stuff. And, so listen with an ear. If you start getting into a show and they're really showing nothing but the most negative side of ETs, remember there was a paper that they found a long time ago that said that if the world leaders, the powers that be, couldn't get us scared enough just of each other, that they'd use the ETs to frighten us.
Right.
So always meet them with an open mind. But I don't like ghosts, so I can't. I'm not one to talk.
As I say, they have their place. I don't let them in my room, my bathroom. The rest of the house they can have. Just do not wake me up and be standing next to my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't scare you. That's all I say.
Don't scare me. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that covers everything. Don't scare you. So, okay, next question. All right, White Dragon. The nearest ley line to me is in Coral Castle on the way to the Florida Keys. I love the Florida Keys, which Priscilla and Heather live at Key West.
I want to go.
When they were up here, I was
Well, we're
going,
going to make a field trip, Dr. Gail.
yes, make a field trip to Key West. Maybe I need to go there for the whole winter so I can skip the snow. Because when Nancy Jean, when you said snow tires, I went, snow tires? Do I need snow tires?
Hey, I got an extra bedroom and stay here in Bender.
So anyway, all right, next question. All right, Ingrid O'Neill, do the elemental change from culture to culture? I was thinking grizzly bear and moose here in Finland. Well, that's a great question.
There is, like I said, I grew up reading. My midnight reading was, and you can still find it. But it's a great big fat book. I don't read books much anymore, but it would compare the hierarchy of the different gods, which they believed were the elementals that before they went underground, and they compare them culture to culture. And the ones that fascinated me the most were in Ireland, and they have a thing called a silkie. And a silkie is a spirit that looks like a seal, but when it unzips its skin, it becomes a beautiful woman. And it would go up into the fishing villages and it would entice the men to come into the sea and drown them. That's not a good spirit, right? But, some of them have all different kinds of myths, but you can see them in comparative history. There's a lot of interesting myths that go from culture to culture to culture. Dragons brought in the monarchy into Japan.
Well,
and they track.
I know what the grizzly bear represents in the moose, since elementals.
Well, we have them. We have them in the U.S. You'll see them on the sides of where they've sketched things.
Right, but I'm going. What category are they in? They're in the fire, earth.
I have no idea.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
I'd have to think on that, and I don't want to give them the wrong answer.
Right, because that would be interesting to see which area they. In fact, Ingrid, you probably know what area is the grizzly bear and the moose. And are they air, wind, fire, earth? Well, anyway, water. The other water. So anyway, that'd be great to know. All right, next question. Ace on the intuition. How do you connect to the ley line energy?
When you find it, you'll feel it and you'll understand it. But I'm going to warn you about ley lines. I'm talking about them now because it's kind of a superficial discussion. Ley lines can also go negative, and and they also can break. And someone I'm hoping is going to show up for 9 candles, but I'm starting to give up hope because he's in South Africa. But he actually repairs ley lines, and he does them with divine energy and help. But when I was first finding out about ley lines, and I found out about the one that goes to High Holy Hill in Wisconsin, Scott Allen went up there to see. Took a day off and went up on the hill to see it. And so he unfortunately didn't wear shoes that were up to the hill climb, but he did not find it near the church, but he found a place coming up the hill, going to the church, that he definitely connected with at a higher level of energy.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question. Why do you connect to the ley line?
I think they were there's more an interesting thing for the scientists to do, but this is kind of what they think the long-term thing on the ley lines is, and this is a Roy Duff theory, but ley lines they think are left over, and they found images from the Druidic era where the globe, and they had the world as a globe, it wasn't a flat place, and it was wrapped in these giant bands, and they think those bands were the original ley lines that went around the earth. And that some of them follow that. Like I said, some have broken. The original ley lines, they believe, were put on the earth during Pangea, when we were all one continent. And then as we split up, that's one reason why they have so many broken ley lines in Africa, in South Africa, because it split away and went off to become Australia. And Australia has very straight ley lines that go straight across their country, except they don't call them ley lines, they call them singing lines. Yeah. And then Aborigines will walk along them singing, and they will follow. And when the tune gets off, then they know they need to move to the place where the ley lines are better. How do you connect to ley line energy? Working.
Why? First,
why? To cleanse it, to find out where it is, to amplify it if you know you have it in your home. If you have a negative space, there's a guy I found in England in the last week. He and I have been sending each other a lot of emails. He teaches people how to house clear and how to bring in good ley lines into your house. Okay. So I'm hoping to have him coming over and start talking with me in October. He's running a bunch of seminars right now in England.
If you look at a lot of, I'm sorry, Nancy Jean, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Go, no, you go, hon.
If you look at a lot of Native American holy places, it's on ley lines.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they use them for their spiritual.
Yeah. Amplify. It's kind of like getting to a place and it's like a radio tower. You know, that's where all the radio things come from, and that's where you can send it out and pull it in.
That's where they held their ceremonies and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's a lot of positive too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness I feel like mine's positive. That's in mine. I think yours is too. But I think all three of us were positive. Yeah. So, okay. Next question. Hey, Tara. Healing the water heals the earth and brings great abundance. What can your guides share with us regarding living in harmony with our environment? Oh my gosh, what a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Healing waters of the earth and brings great abundance. What can you guys share us with regarding? Well, I've gotten my instructions to get out on the trails and the trees, to speak to the trees. So I know that's part of healing the earth, and I know that's why I'm here at Mount Shasta, is to help healing the root chakra. So you two have any opinions on this or have statements?
Well, I think that's part of this stopping right now at this tomorrow on the 22nd and sort of feeling the energy is stopped. Okay, what can I do to move energy forward positively? And think of anything you can do, whether it's a thought, a prayer, sending love and light, whatever. That'll work. Okay. I mean, I think that's where I'm going to kind of lead people.
Yeah, I walk outside barefoot and just hold my hands outwards and show gratitude to the beautiful land I'm standing on. the animals that come on it, just give gratitude for it being there for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, so I was giving gratitude this morning to the mountain for having snow because that's pure water that comes down of Mount Shasta. They don't treat it, but the
Mhm.
fact that it allows us to have pure water coming down off the mountain from the snow. So
Mhm.
I think there's lots of little things that heal the earth that we can do like that.
Mhm.
So I agree. Okay, next question.
Everything wants to be told it's loved.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Hey, Sue Toffee.
Oh yes, Stonehenge is on a set. If
Oh, there you go.
you can look at ley lines in England, they're very well documented. Stonehenge connects a whole bunch of henges and stone circles. So yes, you should have that. Yes, that's a big one.
Okay, next question. All right, as we heal each other, as we hear each other. Okay, could you give that info about Lori, please? Oh, Dory. I think it's Duff. Is that what you're talking about?
Rory, Royduff. And if you Google them on YouTube, there's about 6 that are out there that have been built up over the last 2 years.
And if you're sitting on a couch talking,
And drink lots of coffee. Bring your big pot of coffee. But he's really so smart. And I actually have some books that. Okay, let me see. I have one of his books, but they're about as fascinating as him sitting on the couch. But there's also this woman, Penny Pierce, and it's frequency, the power of personal vibration, and she ties into how to use that kind of frequency energy. And she's another person I'm trying to work into. Like I said, guys, I got this dumped on me by the universe about 2 weeks ago. So I'm just trying to tell you what I can tell you off the top of my head, but we're gonna get this down. We're gonna figure out what questions people really want to know.
I think England, she's put it in a Rory Duff. All right, Hypnicity High. I think I have a portal in my backyard. I found a Washington State ley line map, and there's a star right near where my house is located.
Yeah, go out hypnicity with your pendulum and ask it to sway towards. There's 2 kinds of pendulums you can use to do this.
Dowsing rods too.
These are dowsing rods. These funny things are dowsing rods, and you can ask it to point. Okay.
Actually, oh yeah.
Yeah, it said point to the ley line. Well, it says it's in the middle of my house, and that's what my pendulum showed. But when you go outside and you walk with them, you can say, is it more to the left or more to the right? So if you're in a big space, that's a good one to use.
Well, for me, I took the shortcut. I asked my guides, and they
And
showed
then
me
they told you what to do.
exactly what it looked like. I went, oh, I don't guess I need to go home and use my pendulum. I was walking when they were showing me a picture of it, how it goes, and how it moves actually through the house. It just moves. So I got the shortcut.
Can I interrupt and answer one question?
Yeah.
That's on this that worries me. Can you please tell us about putting crystals in our drinking water? I've heard that water is alive and to bless it to change your water. Do not do this because there are so many crystals that carry minor elements that can poison you. So unless you go get a manual that says these crystals work, or you get a bottle that's got a globe in it where you put the crystals in and the water doesn't touch it. But I have done whole shows on poisonous crystals. Don't think because that's pretty and red, I'm going to throw it in my water. It's not going to make Kool-Aid.
Well, that's great. That's great information. Everybody needs to know.
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
They advertise that all the time about crystals, in your water, putting crystals in your water. So.
They saw all kinds of crap about crystals. Trust me.
Okay. All right. So let's go to Prince Charming's mom. Where's the ley line in the
High Holy Hill. You can find it. It's some big tourist attraction beside everything else. That's where the big one goes to in Wisconsin.
Okay. And here comes our last question. All right. Next question. This will be the last one. And is there another one? Oh, hey, Gary. I've heard whales migrate along the ley lines. Is this true? Ooh.
Not only do they migrate along them, they're the creatures that keep them connected under the sea.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
really tease.
Yeah. All right. Damaris, do you have any last words?
I would like to ask you a question, actually.
Oh, okay.
I was watching a documentary called Shock Doc, and it was about the visitors with Whitley Schreiber. You familiar with him?
Not at all.
The author of Communion.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. I'm sorry?
I said maybe Nancy Jean can answer this question then, because I'm not familiar with this at all.
He apparently lived his adult life having visitors, ETs and stuff, and just fascinating. And I just wanted to know if you were familiar with him, had watched any documentaries on him, what your opinions were.
Where do you find him?
The documentary was called Shock Docs, The Visitors.
I mean, what channel or whatever?
Oh Lord, I just came across it one day. I don't even know. I didn't even write it down. I wrote everything else down.
You can Google it and find it. It's in a lot of different versions out there. But his story is very famous. He's the one who started writing about the communion that the ETs want to make with mankind, and that we have a communion because we have a common base that we come from.
Right.
But it's, that's ETs, and I don't pay that much attention to those shows.
Right.
It was fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna look it up. So sorry I couldn't answer that question for you. But,
that's quite all right. I had more, but I'm not going to take up your time.
Okay. So okay, is there anything else that you would like to say to anybody about your what you're doing and your future and your YouTube channel? Anything that you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all come over more than this with Demaris, and y'all can email me questions. Eventually I'll get to doing a live, and I'll answer your questions I can read for you. If it's a pet question or anything you need to know about, just hit me up, and if you want me to mention your name, I will. If you don't, we'll keep it private, and I'll answer your question anyway. So y'all come and see me.
Okay.
And help me grow, because I'm finding my lane, so I need y'all.
All right, Nancy Jean, any last words?
6 o'clock tonight. If you're not a member, if you're a member of my channel, you've gotten the notification. I'm going to be talking with Medium Kim, and we're going to be talking about the idea of stopping your lives and ceremonies. And she didn't even know what we were really going to be talking about, and she ended up finding all these things her kids had made when they were little kids for fall festivals, and she had them up, and we brought them down and talked about them. One of the things her son had made was a gnome, and we talked about the idea of the colors and the change of the seasons and how important it is. It's a time to reflect, and a time for each of us will find our own things that we need to begin to learn about the elementals. And then when I'm finally done with this, praise Jesus, I think my last show is going to be live, and it's going to be at 6 p.m. on my channel on Sunday. And Kim Carey's coming over from Intuitive View, and we're going to talk about, because I always talk about stuff she doesn't know anything about. So she always wants to know what I know about. And I'm looking forward to that. And then next week, I'm going to show the first of a really simple thing you can do. And it's called the Mountain of Gold, or the Mountain of Prosperity. And it's a feng shui thing where you paint 8 just little simple rocks, gold, and stack them up outside your door. And they help you focus. So there'll be a notice I'll be sending out about that. And that'll be Tuesday in the afternoon.
Okay. That's my dog scratching.
Falling in the candles again?
No, that's my dog. She's got allergies and she's scratching her ears, and she's
Mind you that.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. Thanks everybody. Thanks Demaris. Thanks Nancy Jean. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you all in the chat for showing up, and appreciate you all. So we'll see you later. All right.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.